During Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law looked at the chair I was about to sit in and said, "That's for real guests. You can eat in the garage." My own son laughed and handed me a paper plate while everyone else had fine china. 12 people watched me walk out in silence. That night, I made one phone call. What happened the next morning made them lose everything they thought was theirs. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The humiliation started before dessert was served. I remember standing there, holding that flimsy paper plate, feeling the weight of 12 pairs of eyes on my back as I walked toward the garage door. My hands were steady. They're always steady. 42 years as a civil engineer taught me that. You don't build bridges by shaking. Let me go back to the beginning. My name is Walter. I'm 67 years old. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, in the house I built with my own hands 38 years ago. The house where I raised my son Daniel after his mother passed from cancer when he was 9. The house where I taught him to ride a bike, helped him with calculus, watched him graduate from college. The house I never imagined I'd be treated like a stranger in. Daniel married Christina 4 years ago. She came from money, or at least she acted like it. Designer bags, expensive tastes, opinions about everything. I tried to like her. I really did. When they asked to move in 18 months ago because Daniel's business failed and they couldn't afford rent anymore, I said yes without hesitation. That's what fathers do. The arrangement was simple. They'd stay until they got back on their feet. No rent, just help with utilities when they could. They never could. In 18 months, they contributed exactly nothing. I kept track because that's who I am. Engineers measure things. We document. We calculate. The total came to $54,000. Mortgage payments they were supposed to share. Groceries, utilities, the new water heater when the old one died, car insurance when Daniel let his lapse, medical bills when Christina needed dental work and claimed she had no coverage. I paid it all. I never complained, not once. I thought I was being a good father. I thought patience was a virtue. I thought blood meant something. I was wrong. Christmas Eve morning started normally. I woke at 6, made coffee, sat in my study reviewing the household budget like I do every month. Old habits. Christina was already in the kitchen when I came out for a refill. She was on the phone, speaking in that hushed tone people use when they don't want to be heard. "Everything's set for tomorrow," she said. 12 guests. The caterer's coming at 2. And yes, I handled the seating arrangement. Don't worry about him. He'll understand his place. I pretended not to hear, poured my coffee, went back to my study. That evening, Christina cornered me in the hallway. She was wearing a red dress, diamond earrings I'd never seen before. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Walter, about tomorrow. We're hosting some very important people, Daniel's potential investors. I need you to understand that first impressions matter." "Of course," I said. "I'll wear my good suit." She laughed. "Not with me. At me. That's sweet. But actually, I was thinking you might be more comfortable eating somewhere else. The dining room will be crowded, and these are sophisticated people. They might not understand, the situation." "What situation?" "An old man living off his son's hospitality. It could send the wrong message." I stared at her, processed the words, let them sink in. "This is my house," I said quietly. "Technically. But we're the ones making it a home. We're the ones with a future here. You're just existing, taking up space. I'm sure you understand." She walked away before I could respond. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floors I'd installed myself 20 years ago on my hands and knees. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to them laugh downstairs, drinking wine from my cellar, planning their party in my house. I thought about my wife, Eleanor, how she would have handled this. She was always better with people than I was, softer, more patient. But Eleanor was gone, and patience had brought me here, to this moment, being asked to hide in my own home like a shameful secret. I made a decision before dawn, not an emotional one, a calculated one. Christmas Day arrived bright and cold. December in Arizona isn't harsh, but there's a chill in the morning air. I spent the early hours in my study, organizing files, making lists, When the caterers arrived at 2, I helped them carry in the trays. Christina watched with obvious displeasure, but said nothing. By 5 o'clock, the guests had arrived. 12 people in total, just as she'd said. Business associates of Daniel's, their wives. A few friends from the country club Christina had somehow joined using money I'd given Daniel for car repairs. I recognized maybe 3 faces. The rest were strangers in my living room, drinking my bourbon, sitting on my furniture. I waited until everyone was seated at the dining table, the table my father built as a wedding gift for Eleanor and me. I'd set up an extra chair at the end, assuming I'd join them despite Christina's wishes. I was wrong again. When I approached the table, Christina stood up. Her voice carried across the room, pitched perfectly for an audience. "Walter, there's been a change. We're 1 seat short, and these are Daniel's very important guests. I set up a nice little space for you in the garage." Daniel moved the car. "There's a TV tray and everything." I looked at my son. He was studying his wine glass like it contained the secrets of the universe. He didn't look up. "Daniel," I said, "is this what you want?" He shrugged. Still didn't meet my eyes. Christina pulled a paper plate from behind her back. The kind you'd use at a children's birthday party. Cartoon snowmen on the edges. "Here you go. I saved you some of everything. Well, the basics anyway. Turkey, mashed potatoes. Nothing too fancy for the garage." A woman across the table shifted uncomfortably. Her husband coughed. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. "This is Walter's house," someone said. A man I didn't recognize. Gray hair. Expensive suit. "Maybe he should. He prefers it this way," Christina interrupted smoothly. "Don't you, Walter? You always say crowds make you anxious." I'd never said that. Not once in 67 years. I looked around the table. 12 faces. Some embarrassed. Some curious. None willing to intervene. My son, still staring at his wine. I took the paper plate. "Thank you, Christina," I said. My voice didn't waver. The garage sounds perfect. I walked through the kitchen, past the caterers, who wouldn't meet my eyes, and opened the door to the garage. Daniel had indeed moved his BMW. A folding chair sat in the corner, a TV tray beside it, a glass of water, no wine, no silverware, just the paper plate and the cartoon snowman. I sat down. The concrete floor was cold through my shoes. The garage smelled like motor oil and dust. Through the door, I could hear laughter, music, the clink of crystal glasses I'd received as a wedding gift 40 years ago. I ate the turkey. It was cold. The mashed potatoes were instant, not homemade like I'd taught Eleanor to make. The cranberry sauce came from a can. When I finished, I set the plate on the TV tray and sat in silence for exactly 12 minutes. I know because I counted. Engineers count things. Then I stood up, walked to my study through the back hallway, and closed the door. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my laptop and began to work. The first email went to my attorney, Margaret Chen, at 8:47 p.m. Subject line: urgent consultation needed. I'd known Margaret for 30 years. She specialized in estate law and property disputes. I outlined the situation in bullet points: clean, factual, unemotional. The second email went to my financial advisor. Subject line: account changes required. I requested removal of all authorized users from my accounts effective immediately. The third email went to a locksmith I'd used on commercial projects. Subject line: emergency service needed December 26. By the time the party ended around 11, I had a plan. Not revenge exactly. Correction. An audit of a broken relationship. The numbers had to balance. I slept soundly that night, better than I had in months. Christmas morning, I woke at 5. The house was silent. Daniel and Christina never rose before 10. I made coffee, checked my emails. Margaret had responded, available 9 a.m. My financial advisor confirmed. Changes processed. Effective midnight. At 5:30, I called the locksmith. Rick answered on the second ring. "Walter, you said emergency. What's happening?" "I need every lock in my house changed." "Today, before noon. Christmas Day? Triple your rate." Silence. Then, "I'll be there by 8. Side entrance?" Yes, quietly. At 6 a.m., I began packing. Not my things, theirs. I moved methodically through the guest bedroom they'd claimed as their own. Designer clothes into garbage bags, toiletries into boxes, Daniel's laptop, Christina's jewelry box, everything piled neatly in the hallway outside their door. I was careful. Nothing damaged, nothing missing, just relocated. By 7:30, Rick arrived. We worked quickly, efficiently. Front door, back door, garage entrance, side entrance, new locks, new keys. He asked no questions. Professionals understand boundaries. I paid him in cash, $700, worth every penny. At 9 a.m. sharp, I called Margaret from my study. They're guests in my home, I explained. No lease, no rental agreement, no tenant rights. Under Arizona law, I can ask them to leave with verbal notice. Correct, Margaret said. But I'd recommend written notice anyway. Documentation protects you if they claim otherwise. How long do they have? Arizona doesn't require a specific time frame for guests. You could technically ask them to leave immediately, but I'd give them 24 hours to avoid any claims of unlawful lockout. Prepare the letter. I'll pick it up this afternoon. I hung up. Outside my study door, I heard movement. Footsteps. Voices. They'd discovered the bags. Daniel's voice came first, muffled through the door. What the hell? Christina, look at this. Then Christina. Did someone break in? Where's my jewelry box? Where's a knock on my study door? I didn't answer immediately. Let them wait. Let them feel 1% of the uncertainty they'd made me feel. I opened the door after 30 seconds. Daniel stood there in his bathrobe, face red. Christina behind him, clutching a garbage bag like it might contain a bomb. Dad, what is this? Why is our stuff in the hallway? I stepped past them into the corridor, walked to the front door, opened it. December morning light flooded the entryway. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings from my property. Christina's voice went shrill. You can't do this. This is our home. It's my house. My name on the deed. My money paying the mortgage. You're guests, and I'm withdrawing my hospitality. Daniel grabbed my arm. Dad, please. Whatever Christina said last night, she didn't mean it. Tell him, Christina. Tell him you didn't mean it. Christina's mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. The paper plate, I said quietly. The garage, in front of 12 people. My son, who I raised alone for 13 years, who I supported through college, who I welcomed back when he failed, sitting at my table and saying nothing while his wife humiliated me. It was just a joke that went too far. It wasn't a joke. And even if it was, the punchline was your father eating alone in a cold garage on Christmas. You think that's funny. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera roll, showed them the photos I'd taken that morning of the garage setup, the folding chair, the TV tray, the paper plate with cartoon snowmen. I've documented everything. The financial support I've provided, $54,000 over 18 months. The credit card charges you've made without permission. The complete absence of any contribution to this household. My attorney has copies. My financial advisor has copies. This isn't negotiable. Christina stepped forward. We'll sue. Tenant rights. We've established residency. You can't just... You're not tenants. You're guests. No lease, no rent, no legal protection. Call a lawyer. They'll tell you the same thing. You have until noon tomorrow. Daniel's face crumpled. The same expression he'd worn at 15 when I told him his mother wasn't coming home from the hospital. Dad, please. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern anymore. I walked back to my study, closed the door, locked it. Through the wood, I heard Christina screaming, Daniel trying to calm her, phone calls being made, the sounds of people realizing their foundation was sand. At 2 p.m., I drove to Margaret's office, picked up the formal eviction letter, returned home, and slid it under their bedroom door. Documented delivery with a time-stamped photo. At 6 p.m., Christina tried the front door. Her key didn't work. She pounded on it until her hands were raw. I watched from my study window. Didn't move. Daniel called my phone 17 times. I let each call go to voicemail. Listened to them later, one by one. First anger, then bargaining, then desperation. Finally, silence. Around 10 p.m., I heard them loading the car. Boxes, bags, the sounds of a life being compressed into trunk space. They must have found a hotel or a friend willing to take them in. I didn't ask. By midnight, the house was quiet. Empty except for me. I walked through every room. Living room, my furniture, my books, my space, kitchen, clean counters, organized cabinets, dining room, the table my father built, wiped clean of dinner party remnants, guest bedroom, stripped bare, door open to the hallway. I opened windows. December air, cold and clean, circulation, renewal. That night, I slept in the master bedroom I'd given up for them 18 months ago. My bed, my sheets, my home. The next morning, Daniel returned. Alone. He stood on the porch, rang the doorbell like a stranger. I opened the door but didn't step aside. Dad, we need to talk. About what? About this. About everything. Christina, she's sorry. She didn't mean what she said. We both got caught up in trying to impress those investors, and, did you get the investment? He blinked. What? The investors. The important people. The reason your wife made me eat in the garage. Did they invest in your business? Silence. Then, no, they passed. So you humiliated your father for nothing. His shoulders dropped. The fight drained out of him. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking anyway. Please, Dad. I'm your son. I thought about that word, son, what it was supposed to mean, what it had meant to me when I held him as a baby, when I sat beside his hospital bed after his tonsillectomy, when I cheered at his graduation, when I welcomed him back after his business collapsed. You are my son, I said, but I don't know who you've become. The Daniel I raised would never have watched his father be treated like that, would never have stayed silent, would never have chosen his wife's approval over his father's dignity. I was wrong. I know that now. Knowing isn't enough. 18 months of taking, $54,000. Not a single thank you. And when I expected, not gratitude, just basic respect, you gave me a paper plate and a garage. What do you want me to do? How do I fix this? I looked at him for a long moment. My son, my flesh and blood, the boy I'd raised alone, the man he'd become. You start by paying back what you owe. Not to me, to yourself. Get a job, a real one. Stop waiting for investments that never come. Stop letting Christina spend money you don't have. Become someone worth respecting. And then maybe in a year or two, you call me. And we see if there's something left to rebuild. He nodded slowly. Tears in his eyes now. Real tears, not Christina's theatrical kind. I love you, Dad. I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. He turned and walked back to his car. I watched until he drove away, turned the corner, disappeared. Then I closed the door and made myself breakfast. 3 months passed. The house stayed quiet. I repainted the guest bedroom a soft blue, the color Eleanor always wanted. Hired a landscaper to fix the yard Daniel had neglected. Replaced the dining room chandelier with something modern, something new. I joined a woodworking class at the community center. Started building a bookshelf, then a coffee table, then a grandfather clock. Kept my hands busy, kept my mind occupied. My neighbor, Patricia, brought me casseroles every Sunday. We talked about her garden, my projects, the neighborhood gossip. Nothing deep, just connection. One evening in March, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Harrison, this is James Whitmore. I was at your Christmas dinner, the one who said you should sit at the table. I remembered him. Gray hair, expensive suit, the only one who'd spoken up. I wanted to apologize, he continued. I should have done more, should have walked out when they made you leave. I've thought about it every day since. Why are you calling now? Because I heard what happened afterward, how you handled it, and I wanted you to know that you did the right thing. My own father went through something similar, let his kids walk all over him until there was nothing left. He died bitter and broken. You chose differently. I sat down heavily in my study chair, Thank you, James. That means something. Take care of yourself, Walter. You deserve peace. He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. In April, a letter arrived. No return address, but I recognized Daniel's handwriting. Inside, a check for $500 and a single sheet of paper. Dad, I got a job. Engineering firm downtown. Entry level, but real work. I'm renting a studio apartment by myself. Christina and I separated. She wasn't who I thought she was. Neither was I. I'm sending what I can, when I can, until the debt is paid. Not because you asked. Because I need to. I hope someday you'll let me call. Your son, Daniel. I deposited the check that afternoon. Opened a new spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, amount. Column C, balance remaining. The numbers would take years to reach zero. But numbers weren't the point anymore. The point was that somewhere, my son was learning, growing, becoming. And somewhere, in a house I'd built with my own hands, I was finally at peace. Tonight, I'm sitting on my back patio, watching the Arizona sunset paint the sky orange and pink. The grandfather clock I built stands in the corner of my living room, ticking steadily. A reminder that time moves forward, whether we're ready or not. I think about kindness sometimes. How I was kind for 18 months. How they mistook that kindness for weakness, for permission to take and take and take. But kindness isn't weakness. I understand that now. Allowing exploitation, that's the betrayal. Not of them, of yourself. I reclaimed my home. I reclaimed my dignity. I reclaimed the peace I'd forgotten I was entitled to. And the best part? I get to live well. Not out of spite, out of simple, honest relief. That's the real victory. Not their departure, my recovery. The sun dips below the horizon. The sky goes purple, then dark. Stars emerge, one by one, the same stars Eleanor and I used to watch from this very patio. I raise my glass of bourbon to the empty chair beside me. We did it, I whisper. We're okay. Tomorrow, I'll start a new project. Maybe a rocking chair. Maybe a new desk for my study. Something to build. Something to create. Something to prove that there's always a next chapter. The garage sits empty now. No folding chair. No TV tray. No paper plate with cartoon snowmen. Just space. Clean space. My space. And that's exactly how it should be. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.